What is up, team? Welcome back to another episode of the Red Storm Rapid Reaction Podcast. I am Cole Latchall. Coach Pat Kane is busy yelling at a bunch of teenagers for being slow laterally. So joining me once again is brother Sean. Sean, we just watched the number 15 team in the nation, your St. John's Red Storm, absolutely whip up on rival Georgetown in the 126th meeting of this bitter Big East rivalry. 66-41. In typical St. John's fashion, it was absolute bully ball defense that led the way, specifically in the first half. In also typical St. John's fashion, we can't put together a full 40 minutes and play two solid halves. Unlike usual, this time we played an absolute tremendous first half, roaring out to a quick 23-3 lead. And then ultimately just sustained that lead through most of the second half. Donnie Marshall and John Fant on the call were talking a lot about how it is very difficult to play with a large lead. They were up 47-21 at halftime. Fanta was quick to point out that it is the second time in the last 25 years that St. John's was up 25 in a Big East game at halftime, which is almost unfathomable. But St. John's nevertheless completes an undefeated January. As friend Ryan Patrick Esquire on Twitter has liked to say, St. John's needed to make hay in January. We were saying we wanted to see St. John's get to that magical 23-win number to not have to sweat anything out on Selection Sunday or even during Big East Conference tournament play. To get that, they had to make really hay for Ryan in January. We complete an undefeated January, one more game against Providence at home before we get into the real meat potatoes of our Big East schedule with games against Marquette and UConn. Sean, what did you think about this performance against Georgetown? What do you think about the absolute defensive show that St. John's put on in the first half?
Yeah, so, incredible first half performance. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better half of basketball that we've had. I mean, we've gotten a couple of sprints in the first half, but really impressive stuff. I thought from a pace perspective, you really saw an interesting dichotomy in between the two halves. I think if, use a football analogy with the Super Bowl coming up and our birds in the game, but if the first half was the greatest show on turf in the St. Louis Rams, then I think Rick was kind of hoping for the second half to be Trent Dilfer and Ray Lewis Ravens, play defense, kind of control the clock. But definitely I think the pace got a little screwy in the second half. First half success against the zone was kind of a huge thing. I mean, you saw some of the best half-court possessions against the zone with some of those passes, ball barely touching the floor. I thought they really kind of got what they wanted. Kadari, big game again. Defense, just an absolute all-out blitz from the defense. I think you saw specifically in the first half. The shot, how far they got into pushed them into the shot clock was incredible. It seemed like every possession they were having to throw up a prayer, but
Georgetown wasn't able to get into their stuff. No,
not at all. And they were really they were running them off the 3-point line, and really kind of pressing their ball handlers, got into a lot of passing lanes as St. John's does, turned them over, and got some fast break points off of it, really pushing the pace.
Yeah, you mentioned possessions where we didn't let the ball touch the floor. I mean, I wrote down sharing the sugar to quote Zach Braziller's favorite St. John's coach, Steve Lavin. 14 assists on 28 made field goals for the game. Just a great job of passing to create open looks and making field goals. And to your point about turning them over, they had that great in the huddle break in with Rick Pitino in the first half where he was pointing out to the team that the game plan was Georgetown not having a really good assist to turnover ratio and that they needed to press them in order to force them to turn the ball over because they would when having men in their face turn the ball over. Georgetown ends the game 6 assists, 16 turnovers. St. John's having 19 points off of those 16 turnovers. I mean, I think that's really the game. Some great individual performances. You had Zuby with just another great 13-9 game. 8 of his 9 rebounds being defensive, which Pat would love because Pat loves getting on Zuby for not rebounding defensively and only rebounding offensively. So great job by Zuby there. 2 steals. Casey Jacobson pointed out at halftime that he thinks Zuby Ejiofor is the most improved player in the entire nation year over year. So shout out to Zuby, shout out to Rick Pitino and his player progression. Kadari Richmond with an amazing game, again, based on how he's played in these last couple games with Davon being out, how he played against Xavier, how he played then again tonight, specifically in the first half with 11 points in the first half, ends with 13 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 blocks, 2 steals. If he can play the way he has these last 2 games, if that's the Kadari Richmond we get for the rest of the season, the sky is the absolute limit for this team. Aaron Scott with a great game, 10 points, 9 boards, 2 steals. I am now contractually obligated to call out Aaron Scott every time he has a tremendous game that lives up to my high standards for him after his father got on me on Twitter a little bit. But shout out to Aaron with an absolute great game. And piggybacking on Aaron, I mean, he's still putting the ball up from 3. He's one of our best 3-point shooters. Still trying to find the exact touch that we know he has as a really good 3-point shooter. Shot a little bit below his career 3-point percentage for the year. For his career, he's a little low this year, but continues to put it up, continues to stretch defenses. I was most happy with he obviously always plays tremendous defense, which is expected of him, but I was most happy with his 9 rebounds. Rick Pitino had a really interesting tweet midweek where he said certain things he wanted players to work on for the rest of the season was Aaron Scott to have 8 to 10 rebounds per game. He had 1 against Xavier. He has 9 tonight. Message heard, message received. He also said he wanted Sim Wilcher to shoot 6 to 8 3-pointers per game. Sim has a tough shooting night tonight, shoots 2 for 10 from the field, 7 points, 5 assists, 5 steals, finds ways to affect the game in other ways, played great individual on-ball defense, but put up 6 3-pointers. So same as Aaron getting on the glass, message heard, message received for Simeon Wilcher. So obviously we know Sim's a great shooter. He's got a great form. That percentage is going to regress to the mean. He's not going to shoot 20% from the field every single night, but Rick wants him just putting it up, and he put it up tonight from 3. They'll fall eventually. RJ, 10 points, 7 boards, 4 assists. Good game, not as good as we've come to expect from RJ, 5 of 14 shooting. But again, those shots are going to fall. RJ is going to do what RJ does every night. I thought Ruben Prey played very well off the bench. Nothing jumps out to you off the box score, but continues to play great defense. 3 assists, assisting Vince on a lot of looks down low. I thought Vince played well in limited minutes, 6 minutes, but 6 points in that time. Those per 40 numbers would be off the charts. And I thought Jaden Glover played well at different spots. It's great to see him get a 3-pointer to fall. Hopefully his hand is recovering and he gets a little confidence. Well, I shouldn't say that. He does not lack for confidence in the least, but hopefully he starts to get more to fall now after seeing one go through the net. Anything else jump out to you, Sean?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I think you're really starting to see, going back to the talent development and player development, you're seeing like processing really kind of speed up for the guys. You're seeing like kind of alterations being made on the fly, where it's like Kadari had that series. I know they pointed it out on the telecast where he has the jumper with the hitch from the corner, real short, and then the next 2 jumpers like no hitch, like looked infinitely better. Even drilled the one was a 3. So you're really seeing these guys kind of like light bulb moments where it's kind of like I saw very early on in the game with Georgetown missing a lot of shots, particularly longer shots. Normally equate to longer rebounds, and I was a little concerned like we had given up a couple of offensive rebounds. You saw the guys position better than following times down the court and really get into good positions for rebounds. So I think you're really starting to see kind of light bulb moments for these guys, and Rick really kind of has them processing at a high level where you see where it's kind of like they're making adjustments on the fly. I thought the Kadari, is it just me or does he seem like he's like become like so explosive in like the last couple of games? I know somebody had mentioned somewhere along the line that he looks like he's in just great shape, but it just seems like his explosion and quickness has like just accelerated here in the last couple of games.
Well, that somebody you mentioned is Rick Pitino. He's mentioned multiple times over the last 2 weeks that Kadari is in the best shape that he's been in all season. I think he's sort of always had that explosiveness. I've always called him sort of playing in slow-mo, that when he wants to get the ball to the rim, he can get there at will. He can get by his man and get the ball to the rim when he wants to. Earlier in the season, he didn't have as many of those at the rim looks falling. I think he's seeing those drop more. His athletic ability and his ability to sort of create midair and move the ball between hands while in there is incredible. And I'm happy to also see the jump shot looked smoother today. Obviously hitting a three, maybe that does something to change sort of his confidence in shooting, but it's very interesting to me how much he struggles from the line, because his confidence at just pulling up from like either the elbows or at the free throw line, like he's very confident in that shot, and that usually looks pretty good. I don't know if Kandari can get rid of that hitch and start seeing some jump shots fall with some regularity. It's really opens up a whole nother dimension to his game and allows you not to be able as a defender to slack off. You have to get up in him, and when he can blow by you at any, like, I don't know how you defend that. But obviously, Kadari's working hard at it. Obviously knows the staff's probably on him constantly and really working hard. So kudos to him. Hopefully everything keeps turning around. I know it was said by Zach was tweeting some post-game quotes. I know Rick was raving about Kadari in the post-game. Also, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Davon Smith, who was out again, maybe suffered some form of minor setback. If you did not listen to Zach Braziller's Twitter Spaces yesterday, that featured a guest appearance from Matt Abdelmassi. Matt said that he expected Davon to be ready to go for Providence on Saturday, so that was huge news. He said that he was starting to compete in some non-overly aggressive physical practice, but was at least getting back out there on the court, which was something Rick wanted to see before allowing him to get back into the game. So that's awesome to hear. It sounded like Rick did say post-game to Zach that Davon is physically ready to be back out there. It's more just mentally getting used to being bumped on that shoulder. So sounds like we might have him for Providence on Saturday, which would be huge. Again, talking back to making hay in January, now we've completed this undefeated January. If we want to roll that February 1st game into January and say, hey, if we can complete this full sweep of January, you can win that February 1st game. I think really then you have a clear path to get to that 23-win magical number that I've spoken to so much, without even necessarily beating a Marquette, a UConn, or a Creighton. I mean, that would still require a road win against Villanova, which is not an easy game. That would require a road win against Butler and Hinkle, which is not an easy place to play. Obviously, taking care of business against your Seton Halls, your DePauls. But it's there right in front of us. It's there for the taking, which is just an absolutely magical season. It can't be stated enough how amazing it is to have Rick Pitino as our coach, how amazing it is to have a booster like Mike Rapoli and everyone else who donates to all the different funds, and that we have so much support for St. John's and we're able to put this type of roster on the court. It's just awesome, and something I didn't know that I was ever going to see. If you would have talked to me back when Mike Anderson was patrolling the sidelines, I didn't know that we had this in us as a program. So cool, exciting. Can't wait for the rest of the season. Can't wait for Saturday. Can't wait for Big East tournament. Can't wait for the tournament that will be after the Big East tournament. I won't jinx it. I won't mush it. I won't say, we got to take care of our business that we have in front of us. But could be a very, very fun rest of the season. Anything else on your end, Sean?
No, just exciting times. Look forward to kind of the rest of the games this year. Like you said, they needed that January, and they're humming right now. They've got it all going. You add Davon back in, and I mean, you're cooking with gas here. So excited for the rest of the season. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm glad they were able to sort of take care of business without Davon and let him heal up a little bit more. So hopefully he's ready to go for this important February stretch. And by all accounts, it sounds like the other kudos that should go out for this amazing start to the season is kudos to the fans who have really showed up and supported. It sounds like they're already projecting for another great crowd at Madison Square Garden on Saturday against Providence. They said there was about 16,000 tickets already sold. So again, kudos to the fans for showing up. Kudos to New York City for wrapping your arms around this St. John's team, because it's cool. And few things can bring together New York better than good basketball, and St. John's is really putting some good basketball on the court. So with that said, for Sean Latchall, I'm Cole Latchall. This has been another episode of the Red Storm Rapid Reaction Podcast. Peace.